The Sunset Beach Town Council meeting November 6, 2017. The first item on that agenda is draft agenda review, amendments, and approval.
I would like to add an item to, I don't know if it'd be old business or new business, to discuss our ethics policy and a possible ethics violation.
I'd say that'd be new business.
Carol, repeat that, please.
I'd like to discuss our ethics policy and a possible ethics violation. So we're doing this as new business.
E. Susan?
I have a question. Does the council wish our town attorney to be present for that discussion? If so,
Yeah.
I would respectfully request that it be placed earlier on the agenda as opposed to the last item.
My sense is that we actually don't need legal counsel on this. I'm pretty sure I know what we can and cannot do, and our policy doesn't cover something, but it's really more of an observation and some statements. Then I think you're okay, Grady. I'm sure you're okay.
Well, not knowing what it is, I'll have to.
Well, if you want to give me 2 minutes,
no.
I can talk to him.
No, I'll have to trust.
Okay, then, anything else?
Mayor,
On
I believe we need to remove or postpone under old business 8A, consideration of appointment of 2 planning board members.
That's correct. The appointment of planning board members, the 2 appointments is going to be deferred until the regular meeting on November 21st.
We actually might want to add something else on here. A discussion about the recently enacted security measures. I don't know if you want that in the pre-agenda thing. I have several items I'd like to bring up, more as observations, and I don't think we have to put them on the agenda. I tell you what, let's not put it on the agenda. Let me have a few minutes on several items in the pre-agenda meeting.
Well,
If it's something that needs to go in agenda, it won't be on this agenda, it'll be on a future
It
agenda.
would be under mayor and council comments and discussions, which is next. Is there any other items on the agenda? Do I have a motion to accept the draft agenda as modified?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The next item is mayor and council comments and discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to take up a few minutes here. I hope you will all
I have a report to give
forgive
also.
me.
Okay.
Okay. Number one, I just want to clarify my vote, and if it needs to go back on an agenda item, I'm going to leave it to new council to talk about this. But my vote on increasing the fire department by 3 people was premised on them not needing as many part-time help. The idea was to give you a consistent hiring status for the fire department. You were complaining that you couldn't find part-time people. It was hard to get them. We were closing the 2nd station because you couldn't come up with people at the time. So the whole idea of granting 3 additional firemen was that you wouldn't need those part-time positions the way you've been using them at this point to make sure that both stations are staffed. If it was never intended to tell you that the staffing was going to be 3 or 4 people per station by continuing to use part-time people to get you up to the staffing that I know you would like, but that we have not granted. So if you need clarification, I mentioned this to Susan and I said, I hope that means that he's not going to be using the money in his budget for all these part-time people. And her response was, that's not what your motion said. Well, I thought it was pretty clear. If that's not what our motion was, then we need to make sure that if the new council thinks that that's an issue, to make sure you get it on an agenda item in December and have this discussion. Okay? That was number one. Number two, there's a memorandum of understanding with the Veterans Group that basically says, I could not come up with my copy, but I helped draft it, so I remember it pretty clearly, that basically said that ceremonies and events that the Veterans Organization held in the park, they were responsible for setting up and whatever. I know that our staff has been doing a lot of work with the Veterans Group, and again, I understand, Susan, your position, and I think I probably agree with you, that some of these things have become town events, but we're in violation of this MOU. So somebody needs to put on the agenda discussion of what events would be covered under the MOU and what events would be considered town events. So if a Memorial Day ceremony is a town event, we don't run into the same problems. If it's not a town event, you're violating the MOU. Okay? Number three, the living shoreline. Susan, you put out a draft.
Before you move on from that, you want that as...
I don't want anything. It's going to be whatever the new council comes up with.
Well, do we
I'm
want
telling you right now, I'm leaving it for new council.
Do we want to, well, we're talking about it right now, do we want to add that as an upcoming agenda item for an upcoming meeting?
Let the new council decide if they want to have that as an agenda.
All right, okay.
Carol's making some suggestions as to
All right.
what she sees in the
Right.
philosophy.
On the living shoreline, I was of the impression that we were okay with putting money in our budget for the living shoreline so that we could qualify for requesting a grant. We didn't know what the grant would cover. We didn't know what the full cost of the project was. And my understanding is that we would have a chance, once we knew those numbers, to make a final decision on whether or not to proceed. I think that there's some impression that this is a done deal and that the money's in the budget and it's funded and it's not coming back to council. And I think that's wrong. Yes?
Susan?
That's not quite accurate. We, just as with any other capital project, we put it out for bid and we bring that contract back before the council for approval before we proceed.
And I agree with that 100%. What I was not happy about was this press release that went out about the grant and made it sound like this was absolutely going forward, and council has not approved this expenditure at this point. We did that for the grant purposes, but this has not been approved. So again, it's something whoever is on the new council needs to think about.
Thanks, Carol.
Okay? Lastly, Beach Consortium is a meeting on November 15th at 10 o'clock. I've been the representative. I would like somebody else to attend that meeting.
What date is it, Carol?
11/15 at 10 o'clock at the government, at the Brunswick County.
It'd be inappropriate for me to
Council
attend.
chambers.
I'll do it.
No, you shouldn't be. It should be.
I won't attend.
Mark said he would.
Okay, so Mark, I will forward you that email. And how do you want to handle the discussion about security measures?
Whatever, I was going to say about what I had sent out.
You know what, would you mind making that, because it's kind of a part of what we added to the thing. How about if we make it new business F?
Well, Susan?
Again,
That is something, though, that Grady may need to
That's
be
what
involved in.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say.
which is what I was just going to bring out.
Might be A.
All right. Can we
Susan?
move those two issues up to the front? And
Uh,
that way
Susan.
it's-
Susan?
Yeah, I was going to say I could defer my administrative report and have those two items placed there.
Okay.
All right, so let's move both the ethics issue and the security measures, because I'm on both sides of this.
John, you had comments you want to make.
Yep. Last Friday, October 27th, I attended as our representative the Grand Strand Area Transport Study meeting by the Transportation Advisory Committee. This is the committee that looks at the North Carolina aspects. And the key part of that meeting is that this Transportation Advisory Committee has control over what's called direct attributable funds. And that pot of money has about $1.6 million in it now, which will be available for local, i.e. Southeast Brunswick County projects in 2018. And as we look ahead, in January, they will provide guidelines for applications. And after those guidelines come out, then the localities will be able to propose projects. And then the Transportation Advisory Committee will rank them and decide them, sort of similar to the way that they did it was a different pot of money, but the $100,000 for the sidewalk. Okay.
All right.
That's it.
Bob, I'd like to say one thing.
Go ahead, Mark.
I would just like to tell Kevin and the chief that you guys did an excellent job on the trunk and treat. It was a great turnout, a great effort by the town, and I hope that's part of the town for the future. Great job.
All right, the comments that I wanted to make had a little bit a reflection on something that Carol wanted to talk about, but mine really just deals with the meeting decorum. I had sent out so that everybody's aware of it, I had sent out a memo on October 20th to the council members about conduct of council meetings, and that I referenced the requirements in our ethics, or our, not ethics, yeah, our ethics policy, and said that since I'm responsible for the conduct of the meetings, that I'm going to require that all comments be directed to me, that is, public comments or comments by council members, that council members have to be recognized in order to speak, so they're not speaking over each other. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to say whatever they want to say. It's not an intention to discourage or prevent them from discussing anything they want to discuss, or saying anything they want to say, or correcting anything they need to be corrected. But I'm going to request that all comments, both from the public and from council members to council members, or council members to the public, be addressed to me. You can make whatever comments you want, but they be addressed to me. What I'm trying to do is diffuse personality conflicts. I sent that memo out, and I intend to try and conduct the council meetings in that vein. The next item of agenda, well, it's just about 7 o'clock. So I call to order the 7 o'clock meeting. Request everyone join me in pledging allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is the audit report.
Good evening. How are you guys doing? My name is Lee Grissom, work for S. Preston Douglas and Associates. I'm here to present the audit for June 30th, 2017. Hopefully you have each of you have a report in front of you, so I'll be referencing various pages throughout the presentation. Okay, first off, let's just get it out of the way. Page 1 is the auditor opinion, pages 1 and 2. And we did provide we did issue a clean audit opinion. These financial statements in your possession were free of material misstatement in our opinion, and they're also in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. One thing to note also, we did not audit the Sunset ABC board. You can see that as a component unit on page 9 and 10. The Sunset Beach ABC board was audited by a different accounting firm. So again, you know, these financials, again, it was an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance we can provide on these statements. Okay, one item of housekeeping really quickly. You should have another 2-page report, but I'm just going to give you the highlights. I'm not going to read through it exactly. But it's just basically 5 things. It's just housekeeping. First off, during the course of the engagement, management provided full access to the records during the audit. There were no new accounting policies used during the year. We had no disagreements with management. We found no illegal acts during the course of the engagement, and we did not consult with other auditors during the course of the engagement, other than the fact that the Sunset ABC board was audited by a different firm. Any questions so far? All right, let's get to the numbers. Let's flip to page 5 in the MD&A. Page 5, figure 2, this is the comparative balance sheet for the town of Sunset. The first column, June 30th, 2017, and then the second column is June 30th, 2016 as a comparative. And we'll just kind of go down the balance sheet. Total current assets, 2017, $8.86 million. Total capital assets, $14.57 million. And then total assets, $23.44 million. And that's compared to the prior year of $20.5 million. And then we'll go down, current liabilities, $471,000, and then long-term liabilities, just over $2 million. If you notice in the 2016 column, the largest difference there went from it was 2.5 in 2017, and last year was only 500,000. I would like to show you, let's go to page 8, and I'll show you a breakdown of those liabilities and what that makes up, what that consists of, that change. So figure 5 on page 8. Okay, and this breaks out the outstanding liabilities that, again, that's the big difference between 2017 and 16 on the balance sheet. There was an installment purchase of $429,000 at June 30th, 17. That's a new fire truck. And there was 0 last year in 2016 for that. Net pension liability, $900,000. That's the healthcare pension liability, which is again, that's an actuarial number, and that number the town can't really change. Compensated absences, that's PTO, that's basically the same as it was the year before. The new item, net pension liability, LEO, and that's the law enforcement separation allowance. That's a new change from last year. That's GASB 73. That liability was only $91,000 on the books last year. Now it's showing $674,000. Again, this is a liability that is kind of out of the control of the town.
Is that just an accounting feature as to where it's listed, or is?
It doesn't affect budgetary statements. It's really for the front 2 statements, and it's kind of a, you know how that, if you're familiar with actuarial reports, it's dependent on a lot of factors, interest rate, various things. But I think it represents basically if you had to pay all of the law enforcement officers at one point in time, it's estimated what that liability would be. So
we weren't showing it properly before?
no, it's a new accounting standard.
That impact applies to every single municipality, because the local government, whatever the right name of it is, made a change and required it had to be reported differently. So that's, every municipality has that.
Correct,
increase.
and we'll see that going forward as we go through the statement. But there was a restatement to net fund balance of over 500,000, so it reduced. It was basically trying to get you at July 1, 2016 to get you to the correct liability. So you had to reduce your fund balance by over 500,000 this year. But again, yes, every municipality who has law enforcement separation, those benefits to law enforcement officers have this. So flip back to, let's finish up on page 5.
Do we need, is it necessary that we go over all of these schedules?
No, this is condensed.
Okay.
It could be worse.
Okay.
No, we'll make this fast.
We've all read through this, so, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I just want to bring to attention a couple items that were different. Trust me, it'll speed on. Just be patient. I want to get out of here too now. But okay, so total net position 2017 21.6 million, and last year 20.15 million. And we'll go real fast on page 6, figure 3, the comparative revenue expenditure statement here. Total revenues, 7.2 million, 2017. The year before, 6.44 million. Total expenditures were about the same. Total increase in net position, 1.72. So that's a pretty good increase from the prior year to the net position of the town. Any questions?
You made a statement a couple times about a different accounting firm looked at the ABC board. Is that because the state mandates that, and do they purposely take that away from?
No.
They want their own auditors to look at it?
They make the choice.
They meaning the
They-
state?
The board.
No, the board.
Oh, the ABC board makes it. Okay.
Sorry.
Any other questions? at this point?
Lee, I have some, but if, I just want to wait till you finish.
No, go ahead, if you're ready.
Well, I think, I don't know what the nature of his questions are. It's probably better that you finish, because I think you.
That's fine.
It covers stuff that you haven't covered yet, I think.
Okay. Well, let's go to page 41. And again, I'm trying to bring up items in the statement that are a little either unusual or different, so I'm not trying to bore you to death intentionally. But page 41, this is a list of the prior period adjustments and restatements that occurred during fiscal year 17. There's 4 paragraphs, each representing each of the prior period adjustments or restatements. The GASB 73 that I mentioned, law enforcement separation allowance, that's the 4th paragraph down, almost $550,000. That reduced your beginning net position. That's the largest one of the, well, actually, 2 of them are very large. The other one is capital assets were understated in the prior year by $551,000.
Is that just because we weren't tracking it?
No.
I wasn't involved in that part of the.
Yeah.
I mean, by that I mean we didn't count every penny that we had in, we have 14 alligator clips and.
As briefly as I can, do you remember that I was advocated changing accounting firms? That's one of the reasons. They were given the information, and I am not exactly sure why they didn't use it. The point is that we have it's the fixed asset schedule that has been problematic. There was no fixed asset schedule prepared. I prepared one in the spring for the fiscal 16 audit, and the numbers did not appear in the audit in the way that they should have. And so the takeaway for that is now we do have a good fixed asset schedule, and the Preston Douglas and the town of Sunset Beach have gone over it and agreed that it is a good schedule. It was just I believe, a careless omission on the part of the other auditor.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
okay.
Just turn the page, Bonnie.
And it was in her best, I mean, really what she would have rather have done isn't just sweep it under the rug, but she wanted to get this right, and unfortunately it did result in a finding which we'll go over in another page. The other 2 items were basically fixing some balance sheet. There was some accruals, accounts receivable accruals, but they were much smaller in total. So really, it was the capital assets and then the law enforcement separation allowance, both over $500,000.
I understand that the accruals were, the problem was that with the fiscal year ending 16, the accruals that should have been reported in 16 that weren't, but they were reported as income in 17. I mean, the year end 17.
We made sure that we didn't want to fix it through the current year because we would have shown 14 months.
But-
Well, there's 12 months of revenue, so
But-
that's why we did a prior period adjustment to make sure we didn't overstate.
Okay, but they should have
operation.
been stated in the 16.
Correct.
Okay.
correct. So we did a prior period. And plus, we were already having to do a prior period adjustment for this, so we figured a clean house and take care of everything all at once. Which that's going to lead us to the unfortunate finding as a result of all this on page 66. So this is a part of the internal control report starting on page 63 and 64. By definition, a material prior period adjustment is a significant deficiency. So you can see on page 66, you see the criteria, condition, effect, cause, and then there's a recommendation, and then the response from town officials. Bonnie has already addressed during this fiscal year, I mean, she reviewed that report, several times as a result. And I don't know if it was a matter of last year's it was pushed out. I think the report came out in March, so it was really late. So I don't know if it was just things kind of going quick and it got out the door. I don't know, but this year she's looked at that statement front and back and provided some good feedback.
But the bottom line is that we're not talking about embezzlement, we're not talking about huge shortcomings, we're really talking about something that's been corrected and we're going to move on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it was the best kind of mistake. It was fixed assets understated, so it's better than it being embellished on the other side. So one other item I'd like to go over. If you're not familiar, the general fund unassigned balance to general fund expenditures, it was 80.92%. That's roughly 9.7 months of reserve. I think that's very good, very high percentage. We just did a town last week. I was in a meeting, and they had less than 20% of the same metric. I'm not going to call out which beach that is, but I think this is fantastic. Yeah.
Was it,
Which county?
was it a beach town?
Yes, yes. But from
Lee,
my
that
standpoint,
was,
this is really-
that was one of my concerns, because last year our savings rate was 102%, and it dipped down to 81%, which is only 6 percentage points above our 75% savings policy. I don't recall it being that low, but the reason why it is that low, according to Bonnie, is due to the dredging program that we're now into and still examining. I looked at the package and I see that revenues are strong. There's no question about that. We've got to me, a high tax rate, so our revenues are strong. My concern is at the expense level, because this audit report does not include liabilities that we have to address next year. And some of that is dredging, some of that is maybe not being reimbursed for the hurricane FEMA reimbursement.
Does this have anything to do with last year's audit report, Rich?
It's a warning.
But how about giving your warning in an appropriate time? We've got a presentation going on here about last year's audit report.
Last year's audit report is satisfactory. What we have to be concerned about is next year. And Mr. Mayor, I would like to begin the budget process in a planning process in January for the new council. Is that an acceptable request, Mr. Mayor?
It's an acceptable request.
Thank
can
you.
request it, no question about
Because
that.
these are concerns.
Hey, do you have more comments on the audit?
Last thing, just page 62, the ad valorem tax collection percentage, 98.6%. Just wanted to point that out.
Is that considered good or bad?
It's on par with what we see.
All right, does anybody have any other questions of the auditor?
Of the auditor, no, but I'd just like to correct that statement.
Well, I'm gonna make some statements with regard to that. Anybody have any other questions of the auditor?
So, I do. So when you evaluate our town's financial status overall, can you make an evaluation? We in sound shape, good shape, great shape, bad shape?
That's a great shape, what the statements show. And as far as
That was,
the books is
What was that?
concerned with Bonnie, what was that?
what did you say it was?
Oh, that's a great shape.
Great shape, okay.
Any other questions? All right, we can excuse the auditor, we don't
Yes.
need him, correct?
All right.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
All right.
Thank you, Lee.
Could I request the audience, if you want to speak, that you step outside? It's distracting, and it also interferes with the recording. There's issues that I wanted to address that were raised by Mr. Serrato with regard to expenditures and whatnot. And on the 17th of October, he handed out a memo to the council that expressed his concern about the 102% reserve down to 81%. And basically, if you bear with me here for a minute, this is going to take some time. The 75% savings policy is put aside in the event of a storm. The 21% is result of allocating $1.4 million for the shoreline management program, and the estimated $500,000 already expended is not reflected in the fiscal year 17 audit report. I wish to remind everyone that we have other outstanding commitments or programs other than dredging, such as the $3 million stormwater management program, major roof repairs on Fire Station 1, island sidewalks widening 179, improving the leaf and limb program, the $197,000 FEMA reimbursement now in jeopardy, other planned emergencies, and now seeds have been planted for a facility for public works. Mr. Mayor, since the taxpayers can't afford any more surprises, and to add this warning alarm, I'd like to schedule our first fiscal year 19 budget meeting in January. So they fully understand the financial impact of these commitments and how they may affect our reserve fund balance and our overall financial position, including any impact on our tax rate. Also, it's my hope that the council will receive this material before the meeting. It also addresses other statements. I also wanted to address other statements that were made, that have been made by Mr. Serrato, both in council meetings and in publications that he circulated to residents. I have a concern, and I hope that you all bear with me here for a few minutes. Thanks, Rich. If you understand this, I apologize, but I'm going to go through as brief an explanation as I can. The town operates on a fund accounting basis. Nonprofits and government entities operate in a fund accounting basis, not on a profit basis. The reason why is that they place emphasis on the accountability for funds and not necessarily on profitability. The concept of a fund accounting is that you establish funds for needed things. And that's what's been done, and that's what's taken place.
It's moving over here.
I don't want to put it in front of anybody. You all can see it. I don't want to.
It's all right. Put it in front of me.
He's going.
However, we can make it available on the website tomorrow.
This is nothing new. It's all in the audit report. What I'm talking about with a fund accounting system, our audit report shows as of June 30th, the general fund, which we're calling fund number 10 on the books of the town, had $5,693,593 in it. We also had other funds. We have a PAL bill fund. That's a restricted fund. That's the money that comes in from the state portion of, our portion of the state gasoline tax to pay for, reimburse us for the cost of maintenance on roads. That's restricted. You can't use that money for anything but certain things related to roads. Beach Fund number 22, at the end of June, we had 630,797. That's also restricted, and a portion of that comes from the accommodations tax, or it comes from a portion of the accommodations tax. We've got Future Development Fund number 23, which had in it, as of June 30th, $95,697. I'm sorry. Future Development Fund number 23 had, as of June 30th, $402,711 in it. The Dredging Fund had $1,322,291 in it. The bottom, post-June 30th, is a fund that we created with $400,000. Now, let me explain where that all came from. The balance in funds 11, 22, 23, 26, 28, 44, and 45 are not included in the general fund balance used to calculate the 81% that was referred to, the capital fund reserve. The only figure that's used for the capital fund reserve is this number. So when we talk about 81%, the capital fund reserve is 81% of this. It does not include these.
That represents 81% of the general fund.
The general fund, all right. The, one of the reasons it doesn't is that some of these are dedicated to other purposes other than the general unassigned expenses. In fiscal year 17, the fiscal year ending in 17, and I'm going to ask Bonnie to jump in if I misstate anything. The council transferred, before I got here, the council transferred $1,400,000 and created the dredging fund. There's remains $1,322,000 out of that $1,004,000. That's not in the general fund. That's in a separate fund. It's not for the calculation of the reserve, the 81% reserve. These monies have been accounted for in determining this general fund balance because they were paid out of the general fund to establish this fund in the year ending June 30th. So those monies have been set aside. They're not spent. They're set aside. The project has been funded to that extent. But they have not been committed. The estimated $500,000 already expended, characterized by Mr. Councilman Serrato, is also in fact accounted for in this number because it was paid in fiscal year ending in 2017, the year we just heard about. The funds in, the monies in, represented in Fund 44, the balance of which together with the grant will be available to cover the cost of the anticipated dredging. Unless there are expenses associated with dredging which exceed Fund 44 and the matching grant, there will be no other demands on the general fund for monies to support the shoreline management program, which is dredging. When a commitment is made to move forward, if a commitment is made to move forward with the dredging project, a substantial portion of those funds allocated to dredging will be returned to the general fund through the establishment of the dredging districts and the assessment of the impacted properties. If the dredging was not to proceed, if the council determines not to proceed with it, or only proceed with a portion of it, the balance of the Fund 44 will be available to transfer back into the general fund. The statements of outstanding commitments is also incorrect. There's been no commitment of $3 million to the stormwater management program. The plan has not yet been approved by council. The contract with McGill, who is the engineering firm that we retained, is for $323,900 with some small additions. In fact, in fiscal year ending June 2017, McGill was paid $344,753.98 towards the stormwater report and plan. This entire amount came out of the general fund before this number was arrived upon, before June of 2007, June 30th of 2017. The stormwater plan is a 10-year plan. The first year, it encompasses or envisions purchase of equipment and other items. The years 2 through 5, $447,600, and years 6 through 10, $564,800. It's not $3 million. They total $1.7 million. Because there were no bids received for the roof of the fire station number 1, and a firm figure had not been established at the time we adopted the 18 budget, the year-ending 18 budget, we included $50,000 in the 17-18 year budget. Toricon, who did the review of the roof, was paid $5,800 for the engineering report. That was paid before June 30th of 2017. The acceptance of the contract for roof repairs took place on October 17 at a commitment price of $79,488, which after the $50,000 we budgeted in 2018, leaves $29,500 not accounted for as coming out of the general fund, which together with any contract adjustments and whatever, will have to come out of that number. That's $29,500. There will be no claim or impact on the general fund balance for the cost of Main Street sidewalks. No claim on that number at all. As of June 30th, 2017, you don't see, Fund 26 had a balance of $95,697. Fund 26, which it's up there, 23, which you don't see up here, you don't use it, also had a balance of $402,000. They were, by budget amendment, transferred and established transferred to the general fund. Am I right, Bonnie?
Initially transferred to the general fund, but then the council instead restored the money in the general fund and took it instead from Fund 23 and Fund 26.
Right, and that total, they established in 2017, this Fund 45 of $400,000 for the Main Street sidewalks. That includes that money and that money with another 100,000 difference that remains in the current general fund balance, because it was all done after the calculation of the general fund balance you see up here.
And that 100,000 is the grant. That's the grant. It's the grant. So the total project is 500,000, but it required 400,000 plus 100 for the grant.
But between these two, that's $500,000.
And what about the
Well,
engineering studies?
We,
Are they in that amount?
let me just answer that. Fund 23 currently has a balance of around 100,000. Coincidence, same, it's not the same 100,000. The council took the 95 from Fund 26, 300,000 from Fund 23, plus the $100,000 grant equals 500,000.
Right.
And it leaves 100,000 with no claim on it in Fund 23.
Now, with regard to the bike path project on Sunset Boulevard, that was funded entirely before June 30th of 2017. That's all accounted for in that number, in the general fund balance number 10 as of June 30 of 2017. In order to get DOT to put it into their budget for the project to be completed in 2018, we had to make a commitment, the council had to make a commitment to fund it with our portion of the funds before June 30th of 2017, and we did. And there was $143,200 from the general fund was taken before this number was arrived upon, and another $146,000 from a Fund 28, which you don't see up here, which was set aside and transferred, and that made up for the $289,200, which was paid to New Jersey DOT before June 30th of 2007. North Carolina DOT, before June 30th of 2017. There has been no specific discussion of the expansion of the leaf and limb program that I'm aware of, and there's none that has been approved or committed by council. With regard to the status of the $197,000 FEMA reimbursement, it will have absolutely no impact one way or another on the analysis of pending obligations, as this would constitute a reimbursement of expenses for Matthew that we have already spent. They were paid in 2016, and those expenses are already taken out before you arrive at this fund figure. Establishing a current balance for the general fund for purposes of evaluating the 75% reserve requirement at this time is impossible. A current one is impossible, as it can only be a snapshot in time. Expenses are paid out and receipts are received on a daily basis or sporadic basis throughout the year, and it would not take into consideration or account for accruals in receipts and expenses. However, as the auditor indicated and Ms. Bray has indicated, our finance director, it can be said with reasonable certainty that if no revenue was taken in the entire remainder of fiscal 2018 from any source, there's sufficient monies now existing in the general fund to cover 90% of the expenses that are budgeted for Sunset Beach through the end of the fiscal year. Now, this is my comment. The fact that the financing of these projects can be accomplished without the need of debt financing is a testament to sound fiscal management. These are all funded with current funds, no debt. Any project that we're talking about is not a debt project. You don't find that this town has issued any bonds or any loans other than for the purchase of the fire truck. That's an indication that there has been sound fiscal management, not just currently, but also in the past, because we're in a position to be able to do these things. I also want to point out that, in my opinion, Sunset Beach is very, very fortunate to currently have exceptional staff. They're exceptionally well qualified. Their expertise and experience can be relied upon to make sure we don't find ourselves in the quagmire that is being, that I feel is being unfairly presented about spending all this money we don't have. And we ought to rely, and I think I'd say to council members that we can feel confident in relying on the staff and their experience and expertise in keeping us in that. They won't let us get into that kind of a situation.
Mayor, there's a gentleman that's had his hand up several times. Can you, sir, can you explain the rules of the meeting and when there is open comments allowed, Mayor, so he isn't frustrated?
Yeah, there's a comment period for public comments on the agenda items only that comes up in a couple of minutes, and then there's, at the conclusion of the meeting, there's an opportunity for anybody to make any comments on anything that they want, that they choose to, where everybody we recognize who wants to make the comments, and they're free to make those comments. All right. The next item on the agenda is Sunset at Sunset report.
Bob, we Your speech wasn't on the agenda.
It was under the audit.
Good evening. I don't know how to top that. It is my pleasure. First of all, I want to introduce some of the committee members are here tonight. Gene Hutchinson, Lois McClellan, Marge Grisham, and Mary Hughes are here. And as Ann Bockelman likes to say, she's an emeritus member. This year's Sunset at Sunset was, without a doubt, our most successful festival in 11 years. That was made very clear to us from letters we received from a number of our vendors and those sent to the Beacon by festival attendees. We had 123 vendors, our largest number ever, and the crowds were our largest ever. Every parking lot on Sunset Boulevard was full most of the day, as was the main parking area close to the Food Lion. There was no doubt that our guests were spending money. Our t-shirt and sweatshirt sales reached approximately $800. We could tell that people were spending money with our vendors because they told us so, and everywhere we looked, people were carrying packages. It has always been the committee's goal to make sure that our vendors actually make money so that they will come back the next year. Our television commercial ran 161 times in the last week in September and almost 200 times the first week in October. The Sunset Beach business community supported us beyond our expectations. 18 businesses were sponsors of the festival, either with monetary support or in-kind support. It is true that it takes a village. On behalf of the committee, I tell you that we are very grateful to our volunteers, our incredible committee members, our vendors, our sponsors, the members of our town staff who are always so supportive of us in every way, and most especially the people of Sunset Beach. I don't know if any of you have any questions for me.
There was a couple questions sent to me by email regarding the cost of the employees at the Sunset at Sunset.
Nobody
Is there a
sent me an email. Is that what you said?
No, he said they came to him.
Several people sent me emails regarding Sunset
Oh.
at Sunset. And I was there. I thought it was a very good turnout, Karen. Good job. But their questions were, does the town, do you reimburse the town for the employees' salaries as they're manning the booths? Or is that something we pick up the town?
Sunset at Sunset was created in 2007 by the Sunset Beach Town Council. It is a town event.
But you made a comment in the Beacon saying that there's no money out of the town revenue to pay for salaries. You do not reimburse the town for the salaries, the people manning the booth. So the town is picking that up.
If Mark, if I can understand your question, Sunset at Sunset is town. It's not a separate entity.
I understand that.
It's not. It's a town expense incurred by the town.
What I said was in the Beacon, and maybe I wasn't quoted accurately, I can't remember, was that the town does not give us any money. That's what I said. We must raise all the money in order to pay for the expenses connected to Sunset at Sunset.
Well, actually, what you said in the Beacon was that Sunset at Sunset does not cost the taxpayer 1 cent. So it does cost us money to man these booths, the fire trucks to be there, the police department to be there. So there is a cost to the town.
It's a town event.
Okay.
Just like there was a trunk or treat, yes.
Yeah, I know. I understand. But the comment was that it doesn't cost the town a penny. It does cost the town.
You knew what was meant. The town does not give us any money.
Okay, I think that's clear. I think
Okay.
Mr.
That's fine.
Anybody else have a question?
Mr. Benton's clear and, no, sir, this is on the agenda. It's the report on Sunset at Sunset.
Karen, actually, I have one suggestion for next year.
Okay.
I heard, this is secondhand, this is not firsthand, but a friend of mine was helping a woman who had a booth, and she did not have any sales. Now, I can't speak to what she was trying to sell. Her concern was her location. She didn't have the location she thought she was going to have, and she was fairly far away, or maybe at one of the ends of the things. I don't know how you address that, other than maybe having some signs and say, more vendors this way or something.
Somebody
I
always,
don't have a solution for you, but it's just a comment that was made, and I would hope that every vendor was successful with attendance. But I
well,
can't speak to the
that's
quality of
always
it.
our goal, of course. Somebody has to be at the end, and some of our vendors actually request that. The people on the sidewalk in front of, by Sunset Boulevard. That's a very busy area. The least busy is down by Las Palmeras restaurant. If you can find out who the vendor was,
I'll talk to
please
you. I'll talk to
let
you
me
after.
know,
I don't
and
think
we'll
she was planning
look
to
into it.
return, But I hate anybody to have that experience, and if we can correct that.
Yeah, we want
make sure
everybody
in
to
the
make
future.
money.
That was the only thing.
All right, Rich, you have a question?
Yeah, I would like a financial statement, Bonnie, showing expenses, revenue.
That's always available, as are our minutes.
Any other questions?
You said successful, how much was it? Was it a good one, money-wise?
I'm sorry, what?
Dollar-wise, how much?
I don't have the final report yet.
Bonnie, do
Bonnie
you have it?
gave me a preliminary report, but we don't have a final report yet.
Karen, if I may.
Sure.
It's a timing issue. We're in the process of migrating our accounting system to the new software. The new software, the old software cut off September 30th. The new software begins October 1st. Sunset at Sunset is caught in the breach. So we'll have, I can easily provide a September 30th statement. Most of the money had come in by then. Yeah, so we have a good idea. I think the revenues exceeded the expenditures.
Peter?
Peter, question?
Significantly.
Question?
Yes, sir.
What's your sense, even though the final audit's not in, was it the best ever? Was it as good as most? Was it better than average?
It was the best ever financially.
Okay.
We wound up with more money at the end, an estimate.
And that's pretty good. based
Then
on your
previous.
starting position from last year.
That's right, because the committee got a whole lot of sponsors, and the more vendors you have, the more income you get,
And the better the weather,
and better the weather.
last
right.
year was not very good weather.
No, but we can't control that.
All right, any other comments?
No?
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
It's not time.
It's
yet.
not-
It's
One more.
We're not in public comments yet. Hang in there, you'll get your chance.
Item number 4, the 2017 beach season report.
A brief overview, 2017 beach season, started with 18 staff members, part-time staff, summer help. The season incident reporting wise, we had 52 EMS-related incidents, 18 missing persons, 12 surf rescues, and 10 service calls, which could be a multitude of things. 4 of the surf rescues would be what I would consider major, tragic, life-threatening. rescues. Staff did a wonderful job. I think we sent out memos throughout the season. They did excellent with that. Very happy with that. As you know, we ran April 14th through September 7th. We ended a bit early due to the hurricane coming through. Citations issued were very minor, very few this year. For the safety of our staff, we contacted police for anything that was beyond, our control, so we called them out
How many times do you have to do that?
quite a bit. I have no numbers in front of me for that.
Tried to put those numbers together today, but it's kind of skewed, so I didn't want to give you a false number.
That's fine, Kevin.
But I would say that our tent line, on the trash can line, went very well. I spoke to a lot of the tent companies, a lot of the citizens. For the most part, they were very happy with that.
I have one quick thing. Oh, gosh, I so apologize. I was supposed to make a call this morning and get specific information. I forgot to do it. I just forgot. I got a call from a friend of mine saying that somebody she knew was on the beach, I guess with a baby pop-up tent. And two people walked by, and I don't know if it was Beach Patrol, because they walked by, and I thought usually you guys are on the ATV, so. And it may not have met our definition, it may have been too big. I don't know what the story is. I just want to make sure that all of our people are really well-trained on what's permitted, what's not permitted. I hope she wasn't, and if somebody made a statement to her, and again, this is secondhand, that it's something to the effect that the baby can't stay in the pop-up tent if the baby's not sleeping. So that's such a ridiculous thing. I don't know if that's
not correct.
Yeah,
But
well, my comment is just, it's training. It's establishing a training session before they start. Perhaps at the beginning of the season, you may already do that.
Of course.
Just make sure they know what the rules are and that they are as nice as they can possibly be
Yes.
to our beach visitors.
Of course, and that's the direction we're going with staff.
Because that did not, apparently that didn't happen with this
We-
woman.
We did, I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay.
We had issues with the new regulations on the baby pop-up tents. That was very difficult to manage this year, very difficult.
If those need revisions, if it's that difficult, maybe it needs revision. Pete and I aren't going to be here, but somebody else can work on that.
I think we do need to
You have a
touch on
position
that.
open next summer for Carol on beach.
Definitely.
I don't think so.
Definitely.
I've done it, Carol, it's fun.
I'm sure.
It has its moments, but I think that's something we definitely need to talk about. The baby pop-up tents, that was a large issue this year.
The several times I went out there, that seemed to be one of the major issues is this high enough? There is some, on those baby pop-ups, they are a major issue.
That may need
And
some revision.
I know, I walked a lot this year, because when you ride on people, they tend to see you coming a little easier. So
Yeah.
I did a lot of walking. Glass was not as big an issue this year. We're really getting that message across. I mean, we do have some people that come out and they just aren't aware. But glass was a major issue a couple of years. In the last 2 years, this year, I really saw a decline in the
But
use of
holes.
glass.
What about the holes issue?
Here's, people go and their kids are digging, and I'm getting complaints. We've actually rode over to check holes. And we get over there, and they're actually in their holes, they're using their holes, and we just ask them, please cover this up. And we only had to do that a couple times after. Most people were very conscious and put their stuff
Kevin, if they're
back.
below the water line, do you tell them to fill it back in?
Not right then.
No, I'm saying,
If they're
do you even
playing
bother?
and if
Because the
they're
water's gonna fill it
monitoring
in anyway.
You have to unless they're sitting right there, because somebody's gonna trip and fall in it. If it's unused, if it's not being occupied, it needs to be filled in.
The nightly duties before shift ends, we recommend staff goes around to anyone in the process of digging a hole or in a hole currently. If you don't mind, when you finish it with that, just make sure you're digging.
I think you guys did a great job this year. I mean, it's the best year I've ever seen.
Thank you.
The holes also were a problem for the turtles if they're not filled in. Turtles have trouble getting into them and not being able to get out during nesting season.
Any other comments with regard to beach? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good job this year.
All right.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the public comments on agenda items only. The comments should be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. If you raise your hand to be recognized and state your name and address, and try and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Sir?
Mayor, I noticed when you had that shot out.
Your name and address.
Lenny Lewandowski, 554 Metcalf Drive, the one you can't fix a pothole on. I noticed when you had that shot out, you didn't mention that Rich Serrato said that you spend the money recklessly and our taxes are gonna go up a couple of years ago, and everybody said, oh, no, that'll never happen. I noticed when you had that surplus you were showing us, all these monies, how much of that came from our tax increase? 50% what? Remember? I do. How much of it came from that? I'm asking you a question. You're looking
I
at me,
can't-
answer it.
I can't tell you that.
Yeah, I know. I didn't figure you would or want to even go into it. Rich Serrato was the only one that said, you're spending money recklessly and the taxes are going to have to go up. And you all said, that's ridiculous. You know what? He was right. And you were wrong.
Thank you for not responding, Mayor.
Next,
Mr. Mayor,
Any
thank
other-
you for not even trying to respond.
any other people? Ma'am?
You did tell me to shut up. I did.
Excuse me.
You're a proud little guy that's like,
Sir, you're on the edge.
no, I'm not on the edge. I'm just telling you.
No, you're on the edge, you're on the edge of being,
All right, Eddie.
Chief, would you
Eddie.
please remove that gentleman from the room?
Eddie's.
You know what? You don't even have to get up. I'm through with you. I'm through with all of you. Rich, good job. At least you tell the truth. And you lie.
Ms. Scandavecchia?
Carol Santavica, Forest
Santavica,
Drive,
I'm
Sunset
sorry.
Beach.
I apologize for mispronouncing your name.
I worked a booth for Brunswick Senior Resources at Sunset, and we got more volunteers and more donations than ever this year. It was just phenomenal. So we wanted to thank you. The organization wants to thank you for the opportunity, and they will continue to come.
Thank you. Thank
For
you.
those of you in Never Never Land on TV, that man was wrong. What the mayor showed to us was right.
Ma'am, okay.
So that's not right.
Ma'am?
Hi, good evening. My name's Kathy Young. I live on Metcalf Drive here in Sunset Beach. Yes, is this better? Okay, thank you. My comments concern the town park rules and regulations and fee schedules that are on the agenda tonight. And I just wanted to express my concern about the timeline of events that have led to these things being on our agenda tonight. I have some concerns with how so much time has elapsed before questions came up about, and I believe it was Councilwoman Scott who first brought to our attention the fee schedule, and as I recall in a couple Beacon articles, she had spoken about some legal questions and issues that needed to be resolved. And also she had spoken about a grant we received for the park from the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, I believe. And in that remark, she had questioned whether we should treat for-profit and non-profit groups differently, if there were any guidelines in that grant. So these are questions that have come up, but I don't know if they've been answered. And now we're about to approve new rules and regulations and fee schedules. And one concern I had was with the Old Bridge Preservation Society held their Strawberry and Wine Festival there this year. And as I was told by someone on that committee, they were not allowed to charge an admission fee of $5. They were told that they could ask for donations. And I'm just concerned again now that we are charging, or will charge them, if they're going to have their event there again, $175 for their one-day event. And multi-day events, if I'm reading this correctly, are also charged that same $175 with a possible per-day fee, which I couldn't find any information on a per-day fee. So it just seems a little out of balance to me. And just the fact that a for-profit group can come in and make money, and someone like the Old Bridge Society can't charge a $5 admission fee and use that money to give back to the town in some way.
If-
I just,
You
I
have
don't-
two parts that need to be addressed. One is the charitable versus business.
Mhm.
And we had received advice from the attorney that it would not be a good idea to distinguish between the two of them.
okay,
Also, Bob,
a not
the
a good
$5
idea doesn't really address if that is part of the grant regulations. Was that looked into?
May I? Let me answer a couple of your things. One of the reasons some of these questions weren't brought up until June is honestly, council, or until later, council did not know that there was a for-profit entity as opposed to a nonprofit entity running the market. We didn't find out about that for several months, at least several months. Once we found out about that, we started saying, hey, we need to look at our rules. What are we doing? I did not know that only a $25 fee was being charged one time for a multi-day event, and so we're trying to fix that. And unfortunately, that takes time. You have 5 people sitting up here with 5 completely different opinions on what the right answer is, and we're doing the best we can on that. In terms of profit versus nonprofit, I think this is something that we should address again, even though we're going to probably pass our rules tonight without any question. If we can help out the nonprofits, we should be helping out the nonprofits. And if there's a way for us to figure out who they are, how we can define that, maybe that's something, again, that future council can look into. And I think that would be a very good goal to have.
Mayor, can I suggest that? Mayor, because I think you should be responding back to this, but to keep decorum. But admission fees to the park are allowed. However, they're voluntary.
Well, yeah,
So we've
Let-
never
ask-
tried
let
to,
Susan.
because the park is for everybody's use. If somebody wants to go to the park that day and doesn't really want to partake in the paddle festival, they have the right to do that.
My understanding is that it has to be the payment has to be voluntary. You can't charge an admission fee for a couple of reasons, the least of which is not the use of the state money. You can't, and I've talked to the part of people about different concerns with regard to restrictions on who can use the park, or whether you can distinguish between this or between that, and you can't, because it isn't just state money that's being paid for it. The park is also was also paid for out of the portion of the accommodations tax. So, but the restriction against, I don't know if there's any other, Susan, are you aware of any other restriction as far as a fee, an entry fee?
No.
But you can charge a fee, Susan, it just has to be voluntary.
Correct. Donation, voluntary.
And they are able to charge for wristbands to cover food purchases, beverage purchases. That's how we're getting around that.
Well, and I do appreciate, actually, you, Ms. Scott, for bringing up those questions back in June. So I'm just hoping that with the passage of these new rules and regulations and fee schedules, that maybe there's still some more things to look at.
I would be willing to guess that you're going to see future changes as
okay.
this progresses. I'd be willing to guess that.
Okay.
And in all fairness to council, you know, it's a learning experience for us too. We didn't know how the park was going to be used. Things have changed, people's views change. We all change. So, you know, it's a living organism, and that's what we're dealing with.
Yes, I appreciate that. And this is not saying that the market itself is good or not good for the town. This is just making sure everybody gets,
I don't think
a fair-
anybody's interpreting that.
and that Well, in my opinion, the main purpose of the park is for the recreation enjoyment of the Sunset Beach residents and guests that come here. That's
correct.
what I feel like the park is mainly for.
Thank you.
But I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I gave her a little bit more than 3 minutes because there was interchange, and that's all right.
Ann?
Ann?
Ann Bockelman, 404 3rd Street. I sure do appreciate all the love that the Old Bridge Preservation Society has shown. But I do want to say two things, which I think I've already said before. You know, we would love it if we got to use the park for free, but that's really not fair. Because when we have our event, it causes just as much wear and tear on the park as it does when a for-profit event has it, you know. So I don't think that, as much out of the goodness as your heart perhaps, that you want to help nonprofits, we don't cause any less wear and tear on the park. We have nice, orderly people because they're all people from Sunset Beach and around here. And the other thing is that the fee, we never had a real issue with that. $25 was fine. We like that a lot. We can like $175 too. I think it's just important that the fees are meant to recover costs that the town experiences, and that they're not just set at some arbitrary level. And I've said that before, but you know, we're happy to have our event in Sunset Beach. So
Thank you.
that's all I have to say about
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. Yes, and thank you very much, because it's hard to have wine without glass bottles. So, but we use plastic glasses, plastic cups. Thank you.
Other public comment on the agenda? None appearing. I'll move on to, we substituted two issues for number 6 on the town administrator report. The first was, Councilwoman Scott, your comments on ethics.
Oh, you want to do that now?
Well, that's great.
Okay. The town of Sunset Beach adopted a code of ethics for the council on October 4th, 2010. I wrote the code of ethics, and when I did so, we had various options in it about whether or not to include a censure procedure if we wanted to have one. I stated at that time I thought that I had mixed feelings on it because a resolution of censure has no legal effect on the censured member. We chose not to put it in, so we do not have a censure procedure. I raise this because people have been complaining that the town has not taken action on, sorry, Rich, on your behavior when you left the dais and approached Charlie Nern when he was making comments to the council. I read this code of ethics today, recently, the last few days, and I do think you violated our code of ethics. I think your actions, and I will say in the 8 years I've been on council, I have never seen anybody leave.
Address it through me.
Sorry, I've never seen anybody leave the dais. And it's not just the last 8 years that I've been on council, it's for the number of years before that that I attended council meetings. The only time I saw anybody be removed from the chambers was when you spoke out, Rich, just like the gentleman back there did, and I think you were removed. However, I know that you have come up with reasons for why you lost your temper. I do not think you were a violent man. In fact, I know you're not a violent man, and I don't think you would have done anything.
You got it. Address it through me, Carol.
Well, that's very difficult to do.
I understand that,
So
but-
I'm doing the best I can, and you're going to have to bear with me. However,
I want to eliminate the personality.
it doesn't matter what the provocation may have been in your mind. It was a completely inappropriate and improper action. It did not show the respect towards others as required in our ethics policy. Did not honor the opinions of others even when you disagree, and I think you violated our ethics policy. Because we do not have a censure procedure, I suggest, again, that new council may want to look into perhaps enacting a censure procedure, but we have to note that it is not, doesn't mean anything. I just wanted to make this statement because I know I stated when this all happened, somebody said, why isn't council apologizing? Well, I don't think it's my obligation to apologize for what somebody else has done, but it is my obligation to point out that, in my opinion, they violated our code of ethics. And I hope that never happens again. There is no excuse, I don't care what the reasons are, none matters to me. Leaving that dais cannot occur ever again, and I hope that that will not occur. And I trust you when you say
Ms. Scott,
you will
I'm
not
going
do
to
that.
respond to you if I may, because you seem to have selective memory. I made a big mistake. I left the Diaz because I was leaving the meeting.
Hey, now, come on, come on, come on. Little respect here.
I know it's beat up Rich Serrato time for a number of reasons, but you forget when you yelled at a citizen while you sat at the Diaz and screamed at a citizen that caused her to have an anxiety attack and she had to call EMS.
Look, if anybody is
Time
watching,
out, Ms. Scott. Let me finish my statement. Somehow you forgot when a former council member threw a big ring circle notebook at you and you sat there and did nothing. Okay, that was okay. That was acceptable. There's a double standard, and I have accepted that. There's a double standard because I provide public records to the people that some on the council may not like. I have accepted that personal risk in my life, and I will continue to do so. What I've published is all public record, and I know what political retaliation is. I apologize to the council. I apologize to the Beacon, and you've making this a big issue for nothing more than political reasons. Now, there's a double standard in this town, and I have a question to ask all of this council. If we've had workplace violence the past 12 months in open and closed sessions for the past 12 months, why wasn't the council notified of that?
you know, you're going to like what I'm going to say next, so before you
It
start
doesn't matter
attacking
whether I like
on
it or
that thing-
not.
No, I'm just saying, I understand your position on that part of it. What I'm suggesting, and by the way, I don't think I've ever screamed at anybody, and anybody who's watched any of these meetings or attended them have rarely seen me lose my temper. I have in the last couple of months gotten a little irritated, and one of the reasons why I decided not to run for office again. However, I don't care, I understand you apologized, but your apology was so full of excuses that my statement is that it is unacceptable for any councilman to ever intimidate a member of the public when they are making a statement. I don't care if you like what they're saying or you don't like what they're saying, that is unacceptable. And by the way, the situation of somebody throwing a binder to me, it was in a closed session, it was council member to council member, very different situation, and I didn't like it, and I didn't sit back. However, I did not make a big deal about it.
Because I was a citizen and I was at the meeting.
It was a closed session in that room.
All right, let's not, come on. The other item,
So,
you're-
continuing, however, on this, with this incident, I have been concerned about the reaction from you, Susan, after this occurred. Now, I don't know what the legal obligations are on your part. Grady, you can answer that. But I do think that I went into town hall recently, and somebody said to me, I can't let you back into these rooms, you know, I will not let you back. That's not appropriate. I mean, the town works for the council. Council is the one that is ultimately responsible for personnel issues and other things. We need access. I don't want to be told that I cannot walk around in town hall. And I am concerned about some of the reactions to that behavior. As I said, I don't think he's a violent man, and I can't address what's legally required or not. Grady, you're going to have to do that. But I think it was an overreaction.
Susan?
I respectfully disagree. I'm going to speak to the employee statement to you, which was a misstatement on her part. So I apologize, but that was a misstatement. That is not what she was directed. And I'll let Grady speak to the other.
So what am I being asked? I mean, at the end of the day, Ms. Parker has received complaints. She's investigated. Her job's to ensure that there's a safe work environment. And I've reviewed the directives she issued. She's your town administrator, and she's charged with making sure that there's a safe work environment, and that's what she's done. If council wishes to have that directive amended or rescinded, I suppose you can speak with Ms. Parker, and to the extent she can, reveal some of the complaints that were made by employees. I don't know what else is being asked of me. I know you believe it's an overreach and that Mr. Serrato is not a violent man. Ms. Parker is taking the complaints and taking action on them. And if she were not to do so, then the other edge of the sword is someone would blame her if something, God forbid, did happen.
My concern, Grady, is that there was she submitted something that, I don't have it in front of me, that basically stated that members of council were not permitted to go into town hall and talk directly to employees.
That's not what it said.
Well, do you have it
I
in front of you?
don't have it in front of me, but I know it.
Was basically, that's basically what it said.
No, it didn't.
Item 3 says, elected officials and members of the public who have demonstrated a potential for violence will not be allowed in the secured areas or be granted face-to-face meetings with staff members. Those individuals barred will communicate with staff by emailing their questions to my, Susan Parker, email address at parker@sunsetbeachnc.gov. Is that the statement you were referring to?
It is, and I think this is council's responsibility to make those types of determinations and not the town administrator. But if there are legal things that I'm not familiar with, and I'm not a personnel expert, that's what I wanted to hear from you, Grady.
Real quick, Susan, I just asked Susan, is anybody barred from talking to anybody right now?
Can someone please answer me this question? These formal complaints and various concerns raised during the 12 months related to conduct from the public officials, both in open and closed session, has resulted in the following. I won't go into it. If this issue was a concern for 12 months, why are we just finding out about it?
Over the last 12 months, there have been verbal concerns. I provided Grady with audio of the incidents that were raised by staff. The resulting, I received 2 written formal complaints from 2 employees, which I am lawfully obligated to react to, and which is what I did.
Then how come in a letter to the editor, Ms. Joseph knows those names?
Because she doesn't know the names. You submitted the memo to mayor and council to the Beacon.
In her letter to the Beacon, she blamed me.
I can't speak to that. All I can speak to is that you shared the memo, increased security, which was published the week prior.
Please give me a list of the incidents that occurred the past 12 months without any employee name that reveals that we have a workplace violent matter.
I'm not sure that, you can request that. I'm not sure that she's obligated or ready to do that.
And I'm also going to review that request, Mr. Serrato, and let you know in balancing that with the safety of the employee and the personnel policies.
Anything else, Carol?
No, I've made my peace with this.
Anything else? The administrator report?
No, I deferred.
Okay. Department reports, police. Any, you need to add anything to your report?
Nothing in addition to the report. I just wanted to comment that in addition to what Councilman Benton said about the trunk or treat on the 30th of October, we estimate there was between 250 and 300 children that were in attendance in addition to their families that were there. So
Did you run out of candy?
we ran out of candy.
Did you really?
We did. We had generous donations from numerous folks that are here and some who are not, obviously. But Yeah, we ran out, so that's a good indication that we need to plan accordingly next year. If it's as successful as this one was this year, it's going to be great.
Once the word gets around, it probably will be.
I'm sure of that. Yeah, everybody seemed to have a good time. The one last thing I want to mention is that we placed a drug take-back box in our lobby on July 11th, 2017, and opened that up to the residents of Sunset Beach and anybody close by that wanted to dispose of any unused or unwanted medications. On October 31st, 2017, we took all the contents that we received to the State Bureau of Investigation, and we took them just over 140 pounds of prescription and over-the-counter medications. And if you think about a tablet or a capsule, how much that weighs, how many of those would we have to take to get 140 pounds of medicines that will never end up in the hands of a child or being abused by someone? So it's tremendous what we've accomplished in a short period of time.
Great job.
And that box will continue?
Yes, it will.
And as also part of that program, the chief has said that if you're not available or not able to bring them into the box, they'll send somebody out to pick up the outdated medications.
That's correct.
Mayor, at this time, since we have the chief up there, should he talk about the mutual aid regarding on new business number C?
Well, he's going to be here all night anyway. So.
Oh, we get him out of here early. He's got a
he's
life.
gonna be-
No?
he's
Oh,
gonna
he
be
can't
here
leave
all
now?
night.
Oh,
He's here all
okay.
night.
Rich, see what you called?
But I did want to make, I think that when the chief gave a report after a month or 45 days, it was 60 pounds. And I've been reading in the Wilmington paper about a whole lot of press that, I don't know whether it's New Hanover County or the New Hanover County Sheriff or somebody, about instituting this outdated drug program that's been throughout the Wilmington Star. And here we have it operating here in very good stead and doing a great job. Any other comments?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good job, chief.
Public Works?
Anything to add?
Just like to add that on November the 9th, we will be replacing a stormwater pipe under Kings Trail next to Kings Court. The work's supposed to start around 7:30. We will try to maintain one lane open at all times.
Will you make sure that's on? Okay.
Yeah. November the 13th, we will be replacing the storm drain down here next to behind Bill Seafood between Isaiah Court and Hickory Street. Now that will be, the road will be shut down during that time because that will be a 2 or 3 day event on that one. So the residents back there will have to find an alternate route around, come out through Park or.
The town's doing that, not subbing it out.
No, the contractor.
Contractor?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little too big for us.
Okay.
Any questions, comments?
Dustin, you do me a favor, it bugs the heck of me. Going across the causeway, could you please fix that one sign that keeps falling over? Towards the end, it's bending over.
Okay.
All right. I know you fixed it several times. But.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dustin.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning?
Good evening. Real quick, I know y'all get my weekly, but I wanted to address nuisance abatement, code enforcement. We're working on it. We're 3 people in the office. It's me and one other actually handling it amidst everything else we're doing. But so far, so good. Everybody we've contacted has either cleaned up their property or has contacted us, with the exception of one case that's outstanding right now. So, so far, so good. It's a little bit.
Is that considering vegetation, growth like that, also grass?
It's junk in the yards and overgrown vegetation. It's not structural. It's not vehicles. At this point, it's just grass and trash.
And by the way, I have heard from several people who saw a difference. They were very happy.
Great. I'm glad. We've also heard a few people come in, but we've also heard we're not doing enough. So I just want to let y'all know. Like I said, it's 2 of us doing it in a 3-person department, so we're doing our best.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fire?
Saw my numbers. few things I'd like to address. I've been getting a lot of nasty voicemails about our phone not being answered. That would be because we're not there, we're out on calls. So when the phone doesn't get answered, I don't have a secretary. That means that we're not there. And I mean, I've gotten some very nasty voicemails about not answering the telephone at the fire station the last couple of days. I don't work Saturday and Sunday if I don't have to. And I came in Monday and I had 3 blinking, and they were very upset that nobody answered the telephone. We were
Only you
very-
pick up the phone?
Apparently.
Oh.
But we were very busy over the weekend, and they were helping Calabash quite a bit.
A message in your answer machine.
Yes, but
Why
they
don't you
send.
add something to the answering machine that says.
And it does.
If your phone call isn't called, it's because we are out on service, we do not have a secretary.
And it tells you, you know, and if
Assigned.
this is an emergency.
Call Susan Parker's
I
cell
know.
number.
I understand that you have if this is an emergency, but we may be able to address some of those concerns by changing that message a little bit. Just think about that. Say something to the effect that if nobody's answered, we do not have secretarial service, it's because we're out on call. Please try again later, and we apologize.
I'm just letting them know that's where we are. It's not that we try to get back to you as soon as we get back, and it's in priority. So we're not just ignoring the telephone, we're actually working with somebody else. We are in the midst of hydrant testing again. Just to let you know, we'll be in the Sandpiper, Windfall, Cape Side, backside of Sea Trail area the rest of this month. If you have a little discoloration in your water, let it run for a little bit. I can't tell you exactly what day we'll be where, but we will be testing the hydrants. We have to do our flows, and it will discolor the water, no doubt about it.
Is the water
just be
still safe
aware.
to drink?
It's safe to drink. It's just a little rust color.
Not putting anything in the water.
No.
Just flowing.
They're just cleaning it out, flushing them out, just to make you aware of that. We are also just finishing up hose testing, if I'm correct on that. That's been a long, drawn-out task. Actually jumped in and helped out Friday. Still paying for that a little bit. Haven't done that in a while. So we've been busy. We got aerial testing next week, and the roof starts tomorrow. So again, if we're not at Station 1 tomorrow, it may be due to the loud noise on the roof, or we may be out of there for a little bit. You can still call the same number. We'll be at Station 2 just to answer the phone. We'll be working on hose testing out there tomorrow. Any other questions?
Oh, thank you very much, Chief. Finance?
Hi, again. You have the department report for finance. There's a second page to the finance report, and it's just a list of the budget transfers for the first quarter of this fiscal year. And also, I would draw your attention to paragraph giving you numbers for the fiscal impact of the paving assessment that you took action on last council meeting for Cobiah Street and North Shore Drive.
Before people get excited that this is another expenditure, these are things that the individuals on those streets will be assessed for, and they will pay for it. We have to put the money up front, but we get it all back. So
Correct.
nobody
And-
should get nervous about that.
One thing to note, because of the length of time that this assessment process plays out, it's likely that the expenditures occur in one fiscal year and the recouping of those expenditures occurs the following year. That's it for the finance report.
Any
It
other
looks-
questions? Thank you, Bonnie.
Okay, looks
That's
like I'm
fine.
up next also.
Consideration of the budget amendment. The consideration of the appointment of 2 planning board members was carried to the 21st. This is the consideration of the budget amendment.
Bob, I'd like to motion to table this for the new council.
Don't you have to do some of this legally now?
I don't, no.
Yeah, the budget amendment. Yeah,
This
the-
is based on the action that you all took last council meeting.
Bob, Mayor, I'd like to table this if we could to the new council. They need to look at the cost of this.
But this is administrative. You already took the action. She's gotta have the books correct.
Correct.
It's just administrative. It's not,
You can still go back,
No,
but this
it's
is not the time.
administrative, Bob. This authorizes the town to go out and hire 3
you,
more.
no, you already voted to
voted
do
on
that.
We already did that.
You already voted to do this. This is changing one line item into another line item. That's what it's doing.
You authorized the fire chief to hire 3 firefighters at the last council
Don't we have to
meeting.
put amendment to the budget?
But this is an authorization for the budget. And I
Two
think
different
what
things.
Mr. Benton is requesting that this be deferred to the new council.
Use your mic.
You know-
Richard?
Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, John. No,
That's not for you to answer right now, that's for us to answer, and my answer is, we took a vote on that, and this is just administrative and paperwork. But I do have one question for you in this, which is, we were told when we agreed to 3 additional firemen, we talked about the roof coming out of the additional fire fees, and we were told at that time that we couldn't do that, I remember I was told, oh, no, this is infrastructure, and we have to pay for it at the general fund, but I see it's coming out of the fire fees. So,
Well, it's a different line. It's it's not in the fire department budget. It's in the public building budget. And the discussion, as I recall, was the line item that the expenditure was to occur in. You
but
can
it is being
do,
paid for out of the increased fire fees.
if yes, but if it is not, the increased fire fees are a given. We know that we are going to, it's a given. We have, what the budget amendment is actually doing is receiving the money, $238,200.
From where?
From the county. Brunswick County has already started remitting, or
Your property
every
taxes.
quarterly,
I understand that, I understand.
distributing that money quarterly. We are currently receiving the equivalent of $238,000.
So let me be very clear. How do I stop the process of us hiring 3 new firemen?
What you've got to do is make a motion to rescind the action that you took.
Because I want the town of Sunset Beach to know, Ocean Isle has 14 firemen. Charlotte has 14 firemen.
Charlotte has
Why we
13.
need 17? If you listen to Kevin, we need 6 more. But with the council only did 3 more. I have a problem with hiring 3 more when our surrounding towns with more population, bigger commercial properties, have only 14 and we need 17. I have a problem with that.
Well, if I can address, Mark, the council voted, it was a 3-2 vote to authorize the
I
hiring
understand
of
that,
3
Bob, but
additional
at that
people.
time, unfortunately, I did not do my due diligence.
But if
Found
you-
out the other surrounding towns have 14 firemen to our now going to be 17.
Mark, you
Yeah,
can
but
bring
there-
that up at
there-
any future time.
There is a procedure to do it. You've got you wanted to, she's got to get authorization to put that money someplace. That's what this is for. Am I correct?
Yes.
She's got to amend the budget or is it the amended budget?
Mm-hmm.
As to where the fire fees are going to go.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say something? We've had
Enough.
this, did I say something?
No, it's the gallery.
Oh. We've had this issue, I think, 3 or 4 times on the agenda because we like to kick the can down the road. I visited Charlotte, and I did a little comparison. And this is what the taxpayers expect us to do. They
Rich,
expect us to
excuse me,
fo-
Rich.
Mr. Mayor, let me please.
Look.
Motion's already been voted on. If you want to
The
undo it,
majority
the
of council
Excuse me, there's a procedure to undo it. You and Councilman Benton voted against it. I understand that. You don't think it's a good idea. I understand that. And I'm not faulting you for your position. I understand
Mayor
it.
asked you how
The other-
we go about doing
And
it.
I just told you
Okay.
that you bring a motion to rescind the action that was taken, but it's got to be done by somebody who voted to do it,
Carol?
not voted against it.
They can, I'm sure, no.
That's what the
Yes.
statute
No,
says.
that's on the when you rescind a
I'm
motion
sorry.
at a current meeting.
I'm sorry, Susan, I
Well-
might have misspoke.
You actually don't have that as an agenda item.
Well,
No.
yeah, it's true.
Mark, the way you do
It can be placed on a future agenda.
And a
That's
future
exactly
council
right.
can do it.
Yeah.
This doesn't bind the future council to
Well, I'm just asking for
undoing it.
instruction there, Bob.
It doesn't bind the future council from undoing it.
But there are ways to do it that don't involve a motion to rescind. That's a
Yeah,
very
you're right, you're
specific
correct,
thing
you're
I
correct,
don't
you're
even
correct.
talk about.
You're correct. But it's not going to be done tonight, Rich.
Well, can we put it on the December 4th council meeting?
Oh, Susan?
We can do that at the end of this agenda. You'll have that opportunity to add items for future agendas. That's
Well-
number one. Number two, she still needs, this housekeeping item, she still needs to do this tonight.
Will this housekeeping item authorize the fire department to go out and
No.
hire 3
No,
firemen?
they've already, it's already been done.
Authorized.
Have you hired 3 firemen?
That's not the issue, Rich. That's not the issue. The issue is you got to do an accounting entry here. And
I
she needs
move-
the authorization for the council to do
Does
the
this-
accounting entry.
I understand, but does
I
this,
move we
Does this
approve
account-
the ordinance amendment as listed in the attachment. I don't even have it right. Agenda item 8B, thank you.
All right, that's a motion.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
nay.
Thank you, Bonnie. The next item on the agenda is consideration of the adoption of an ordinance amendment for Chapter 99, Park Regulations, revised 1718 fee schedule, adoption of special events policy, and the wedding policy. Now, we've been gone through this a number of times. The intent was that we would have a consensus and a hard document that could be acted upon by council. There's been different opinions as to, and different feelings as to what should happen, but the documents that you have before you is what we are what we, you as a council basically entered your consensus on. There was an issue, there was a question following the last action as to whether the intense items was limited to 3 or 2 per week. That's been resolved. It really was 2.
Well,
We took
it's
action
no
at the-
more than 2
no
high
more than 2.
impact, or total of 3.
But that was what was determined at the last meeting, so that issue was put to
That
bed.
language has been corrected. Everything in here is, as far as I'm concerned, is fine, with the exception that on page 2 of the wedding policy, bottom of the page, number 20, second line, any charge for town services already provided or executed, not of executed, and that's it.
All right, well, that's not
I move we
it.
adopt, I thought we already did on 2 of the pieces.
Carol, for clarification, we
Yes.
have agreed to allow no more than 2 major.
No more than 2 high impact and a total of 3 combination, high impact and medium impact. It's in here.
Okay, I just wanted an understanding.
We fixed the cancellation policy.
Susan?
We did everything we said
Do
we
we,
were going to
have
do
we
at the last
adopted
meeting.
all of any part of these?
I thought we adopted 2 of them.
You did, but because it's an ordinance, you have to have you have to act on a clean copy.
Okay,
I
that's
move-
chapter 99. Okay.
I move we adopt the ordinance amendments to Chapter 99, the new revised fee schedule, the wedding policy, and the special event policy as reflected in this attachment.
Discussion?
Discussion.
We're never going to get a document, guys and gals, that we're all going to agree to 100%. There's things in here that I don't agree to, and I voted against some of it. However, that being said, we need a document. As Ms. Young spoke to earlier, this needs to be a living document, and we're going to make changes as council gets more educated, as the demands for the park change, as things change in life. So let's just put this to bed.
Bob, can I have a motion that we approve?
We already have the motion. It's
I have
just a
a
discussion.
couple minor questions. First off, can any wording changes be made at this point in time?
The policy or the ordinance?
One is there was one that one of our non-citizens, but
I went through
Talked
what
about-
I went through all of that, and I think Either they've already been corrected or they don't need to be corrected. But I will tell you, I went through every one of her
Yeah,
suggestions.
there was one of them that was the clarification on the restriction on animals, that the wording.
I
was-
think you already
Well-
made that change.
Well, we do have restriction on animals, and that's in the restrooms and where it's posted, where it's prohibited.
She
So
fixed
that
that
doesn't need
language.
further clarification.
You did fix that language,
I
though.
fixed whatever
It
you
reads-
gave me.
It doesn't read the way the person in question stated it. It now reads.
And she may not
makes sense.
understand that the bathrooms do have signs that say no pets allowed.
Okay.
Because that's the one restricted area.
All right, you had
Then
another,
in the
Yeah,
special.
yeah, unless it's a service animal.
Yeah. In the special event policy, page 2, cancellation, the previous one, and I didn't recall whether we omitted it, was, there was one place where we could say, that refunds could be given if it was due to weather when the town
Yes.
canceled the event, and that was
Yes.
left out.
We would give that back. Nothing would have been expended at that point. The event isn't taking place. That's why I changed the cancellation policy, that people could get their money back. That should be
Okay.
covered. I don't think
Okay, so if the
that's gonna
town
be an
cancels
issue.
by weather, it'll be there, okay.
Yeah.
That's the clarification I wanted.
Thank you.
Then, on permit and fees,
Page is that?
same page 2 of the policy. Number 2, the language there does not address the updated language on billing that was in the reservation procedure. If it was a event that takes place repeatedly, week after week, where you added in the page 1, reservation procedure, item 2B, if an event is scheduled to occur every week for a number of weeks, the permit holder will be billed on a monthly basis, and the payment is due 10 days prior to each month's scheduled payment.
Yes.
Okay, do you need to repeat that again?
I don't think so.
It's in it.
Plus, it's also on the application.
Okay.
I'm revising the application to include
Okay.
some of these nuances of administration.
Okay, I'm comfortable with it then.
any other discussion? None appearing, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Phew. The next item is consideration of adoption of preliminary assessment resolution for North Shore Drive paving project.
Now, this is just housekeeping. This is what we have to do in
Yes.
order to get this thing moving. I just have one question on this. You indicated in this thing that people have to make payment within 60 days of publication of the notice that the assessment roll has been confirmed. And I recall asking if people could pay over a period of a year, and I was told no. I just want to confirm that, because if we can give people a little more time, that would be a good thing.
When you say a little more time, are you talking, because we do not recommend a payment plan over 3 years, we recommend,
No.
okay.
But give them 6 months to come up with the money as opposed to 60 days.
That's a legislative decision, that can be done.
It can be done.
It can be done.
Just, I
All
would
right.
suggest that you look into that, just to give people a little more time to collect their funds.
Good point, Carol.
Oh, yeah, we need, this is a resolution, we need to do
Can
it
it
here.
be changed and still execute the resolution?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would anybody object if we changed the language and said in cash within 6 months after the publication, instead of 60 days?
That's fine.
That's fine, Carol.
Thank you.
And that
So
would
on
be-
both, we'll change that on both.
Do we need to vote on it?
Yeah, we'll vote on this, on the resolution. It also establishes the public hearing for December 4th. It's because public has to be heard on it.
Also, on the public hearing, do we notify the individual property owners that there's going to be, they will get a separate letter? Good, excellent. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor with regard to North Shore Drive?
Aye.
And,
Oops.
well,
And
I need
Copia Street.
I need a motion. I don't have a motion yet.
So moved.
Any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Susan?
With the change,
With the
With the
change.
change.
I think that was understood.
and then also restate the date of the public hearing.
The date for the public hearing is December 4. The next item is new business, consideration of ordinance 93.01, premises to be kept clean, notice of violation, subsection A.
Yes, Bob, at this time, I'd like to add an additional week, an additional cutting from 2 to 3 on empty lots.
Mark, what's your idea as to timing? Is that
Spring, summer, fall.
in the middle of summer is...
Spring, summer, fall.
Is there an impact on staff, on timing, on how we do it, what it costs us to?
We don't bush hog.
We don't do it anymore, John.
We don't do the.
We
no.
don't.
No,
We just send a letter out.
They have to go around and look at it, but
Yes, we go around and look at it.
So what's the impact? Is this doable or not?
What you mean by spring? March, February?
March, February, April.
Because in our ordinance, you gotta give them 30 days from the time of the complaint. So if it comes in
Well,
at the end
this
of,
right now says May and September. If you want to add one in, why wouldn't you do it between July 1st and July 30th, 31st?
because we have to go out and ride. I have to go out and ride. So I give notification, once we do that, we send out
So
letters.
every 2 months is a burden to you.
Yes, it's a challenge.
Just as a point of discussion, and I see where Mark is coming
Yeah.
from. I know, I own a vacant lot, and I have to cut it myself. And I do it because I want it to be, I don't want it to be unsightly. However, we have people that own multiple lots around this town. We have developers. And to have them have to go out 3 times a year and cut their property, I look at it as being a burden.
Pete, can I ask, yesterday or 2 days ago, they cut the vacant lot on 39th Street. After cutting that lot, rats literally ran out of that lot. The grass was this high. It was cut in the summertime. Now, we've had a lot of rain. Dustin can't go around checking out.
Hold on, when was it cut, Mark?
2 days ago.
Well, it was supposed to be cut in September, so they
Yes.
were in violation.
Yes.
Well, no, this is their third cutting. This is their third cutting, Pete. I'm telling you, the grass was that high. You can go to 39th Street, the lot behind my house. The grass is tumbled up this high. There were rats running out of the lot. We need to cut these lots 3 times a
Before people get very
year.
excited, we have cotton rats on the island. They don't eat meat, they're vegetarians, they
They're
don't
still a
bother
rat.
human beings.
they only live around Mark.
Right.
I
But
don't want
Dustin, I
people
really
to get all
think we-
excited that we have
You know,
a
the
Section
lots-
City
referred to as
problem.
I think if
Lots.
people look at a lot that needs to be cut 3 times, you have an obligation to go out there and look at it. I mean, I know it's a burden to you, but, you know, we maybe give it to the guy that does the garbage cans.
Susan.
Once a week.
Susan.
All right. I've been
Susan,
trying.
you had a comment. Susan.
If I may, I would like to recommend that you let us bring back a proposal, the pros and cons related to this, if at least the majority of you think this is something you'd like to consider at the next meeting or in the December meeting with the new council. And we can give you a cost estimate of the additional burden and/or challenges based on 3 times a
Susan,
year.
there's a suggestion, rather than going by 3 times,
Uh-huh.
do it on a height, try to come up with some wording that makes it look, that makes it reasonable.
Yes, we can do that.
My lot won't grow above a foot because it's the stuff there's so many trees that it doesn't get enough sunlight. Mark, this guy must irrigate this vacant lot.
No, it's 1.5 underground, level of the road. So when it rains, all the rainwater floods
so it
into that
ponds
lot.
into it.
So it ponds into
But
it.
how about a suggestion of something that isn't just 3 times a year?
Right.
Because there's some lots that don't need to be cut
All
3
right,
times
then
a year.
is it the consensus of the council that they go back and come back with a proposal in keeping with what we've been discussing?
Right, that's fine with that.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay?
I just,
Well-
Dustin, real quick, as needed, though. I mean, there's, like Pete said, there's some lots that don't need it but once a year. But
Well, look-
as needed.
We'll look at what other communities are doing in a similar situation and see.
All right,
what
we're gonna
works
get it,
best.
we're gonna get
Can we
another
go back
proposal.
to just general questions about this, and I guess, what's his face, Hiram left, I don't know who wrote this. I wish he had been here. I'm reading this whole thing is only applying to unimproved lots.
That's correct.
What happened to our requirement on, I just don't remember. I
Susan?
know, I
It's
think we
still there.
discussed it.
You have,
Yes. There's 2 sections of this.
Don't interrupt, there ain't.
there are,
We got Chief over
the
there.
code city, or the town ordinances apply to vacant lots. The UDO
Yes.
applies to lots that have been developed. So you have two separate paths.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Yeah,
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, one other thing, I put a question mark, I think I had some difficulty with this paragraph. In addition, the placement or maintenance of any trash, building materials, oh, I remember what it is, scraps, tree
Yeah.
trimmings, whatever, is hereby declared to be dangerous or prejudicial. Okay, we have a lot of houses that are under construction on the island, and I can tell you with complete certainty that people are putting building materials on adjacent lots because they have no place
Building
else to
inspections.
store stuff. If there is an adjacent lot, they're using that adjacent lot to place material.
Yeah, but they have permission of that owner.
Not necessarily,
No,
not
they
necessarily.
don't.
That would be the building inspections department. I'll make note of it for them to follow up on that.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be them.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't know that I would be going out there saying, you can't do this if nobody's complaining, but.
Just when we're aware of it, we'll just
Alright.
make sure. A simple question.
Okay, you have your marching orders.
Get your ruler out.
So meanwhile, do you want, should be passed at this point?
No,
No.
no,
Going back.
All right?
Yeah, we should put that to December 4th, Bob?
if that's gonna be enough time?
work very hard to get it done, yes.
Is that a thought, December 4th?
We'll work very hard to get there.
Okay.
The next item is consideration of the authorization of the town clerk to advertise the position of the ABC board member with term expiration date of January 2018.
So move.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item is consideration approval of Brunswick County Sheriff's Mutual Aid Agreement concerning Bird Island.
Have we had this before? Is this just housekeeping? This is new.
This is new.
Yeah, this is new. This is going to clear up any confusion or any finger pointing, I guess, as to who responds to calls for service on Bird Island. That, as you know, is in Brunswick County. It is within a good portion of it is within our 1 mile extended territorial jurisdiction. However, there, like I said, there's some finger pointing. Well, the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office should go, Wildlife should go, Sunset Beach should go. Dispatch often sends us out there. We do respond. I asked the sheriff if we could enter into a standing mutual aid, which their legal said that we could do it for no more than a period of 1 year. So you'll likely, well, some of you will likely see
become
this
a
again next year.
housekeeping agenda.
Yes, this is correct. So this way, this will allow us to it will cover the town in the event that we go there and we have to make an arrest or take some sort of enforcement action for violations on Bird Island.
Well, I want to tell you, Chief, great job. Thank you for reacting on this.
Thank
You
you.
need a motion?
Yes,
do.
a
Yes, I
motion
do.
to enter
I
the
move
agreement.
we approve the request for assistance as stated to Chief Flame.
Any other discussion? None appearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Review upcoming agenda items and identify new agenda items for November 21st meeting. I was remiss, and I should have made this announcement earlier. The council's going to schedule a special meeting on November 10th at 9 o'clock, that's this Friday, for the purpose of performance of the job performance, review the job performance evaluation for the administrator. The council's also scheduling a 9 o'clock special meeting on November 20th for the same purpose. Those will be closed meetings because they're on personnel matters. And the next regular meeting will be November 21st. Okay, things we have listed for November 21st are the appeal hearings on Palm Cove, the hearing on Camel land use, public hearing on Article 3, Part 8, building inspector, the appointment of Fireman Relief Fund board member,
Planning board.
and the planning board. And then we have, for the 4th, the proposed 12-foot access easement for Twin Lakes, East End emergency access easement, the ordinance that we just talked about for grasses. and Kobe and North Shore on the 4th, the hearings.
Mr. Mayor, can I add the fire department staffing? And during this period, from now until the 4th, I did a brief survey of the fire services in Shallotte. Believe me, it's just a brief survey. And like to have other surveys from other fire departments if the staff could do it. I was shocked when I discovered that Shallotte only had 13 firemen, and we're going to have 17. And Shallotte is not Sunset Beach. It's a very active hub. It has many restaurants, hospitals, schools, nursing homes, and I need to understand fully why this town needs 14 firemen when a city like Shallotte has 13.
All right, Rich, you want to put that on for the 4th?
December 4th
You
meeting.
can advocate it, you know, you can state your reasons in full at that time. This is review of fire staffing. That's for December 4th.
Please.
Who's going to do the, sort of the staff work to be able to compare?
Bonnie, finance director, fire chief. I don't care. I just want the
I
data.
just want to know who's going to do it.
That's Susan's responsibility.
It'll be a group effort.
Okay, and then we have, the minimum safe housing is carried till the next calendar year. The next item is public comments. Now's the opportunity for the public to make any public comments they want. If you, when you're recognized, you would step forward, state your name and address, and try and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. Public comments. Sir.
Dave Eastburn, 424 32nd Street. I'd like to remind everybody that tomorrow is an important day. Get out and vote.
Early and often.
Early and often, yes. I'd like to thank the outgoing council people for their dedication and time commitment. I know it's a thankless job. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank you and encourage you to enforce the policies that you outlined at the beginning of this meeting. I think it'll go a long way to improving the decorum of these meetings. And I think there were some examples this evening where a little bit more of that might have been helpful. I personally have been the brunt of some of those interactions with council in the past, and having someone who's willing to step up and give us our 3 minutes. You guys have all evening to talk about whatever you want to talk about that's on the agenda. We have 3 minutes to say whatever we have to say on everything that's on that agenda. So please allow us to do that in an uninterrupted fashion, and things will go a lot more smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments?
I'm Diane Robbins. I live at 597 Coach Trail. Recently, our new police chief spoke at the Sea Trail Women's Garden Club. He represented our town proudly. He was informative. His presentation was spot on. He answered many questions, and he assured us that we are safe here in Sunset Beach. I'd like to publicly say that to you.
Thank you. Other public comments? Sir? I haven't started the clock yet.
All right, Mark Ryan, 7543 Dunbar Drive. And first one is a question for the chief. We've received an email from our board stating that make sure our vehicles are locked if they're parked in the driveway. There's been some incidents in Sandpiper Bay, and I just want to know if that's the case, and if so, how bad is it?
I would recommend anybody keep their vehicles locked, especially as we get into the winter months when there's not as much activity. People tend to wander a little bit more as we get closer to the holidays. So I would encourage anybody, any neighborhood, to make sure your valuables are secure. It's one small thing that you can do doesn't cost you any extra money to do.
And the second question is, I don't know if it's for Public Works or NCDNR. I fish, I boat, and I was at the ramp today. For the last month or so, there's a very large pothole at the top of the ramp. Now, I don't know if that's Sunset Beach or NCDNR.
Can we notify them?
It's state.
I have
Okay.
repeatedly.
Have you notified them on that
Oh,
one?
yes.
Okay.
Since
what's-
July.
It's still there, it's been there, and
Yes.
it's getting deeper.
We even put some gravel in it to mitigate it, but that doesn't last, obviously.
No.
But no, we just keep notifying them.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Joe Santavica, 9109 Forest Drive. I'd like to comment on this proposal of ethics, okay? I think that anytime a council member gets out of hand and slanders or libels someone, whether it be a member of the public, whether it be another council person, or whether it be an employee, staff person here, if that libelous or slanderous statements are proven to be wrong, I think the person who made them should be required by the other council members to at least apologize to the public for what they have stated incorrectly or invectively. In the past, we've had council people here who have yelled fraud, collusion, and made all sorts of innuendo against people. And once investigations were done, and the facts were different, that individual has never apologized for having made those libelous or slanderous statements. Now, libel and slander in terms of whether you can sue for libel, whether you can sue for slander because it's another person here on the dais, that's one thing. But the substance of the statements are still libel and they're still slanderous. Last week, or at the last meeting, somebody called Charlie Nern a liar. Unless that can be proven, that's a libelous statement. Now, the individual who made the libelous statement, he apologized to all of you in the council. At least that's what his letter said. That's what he said here tonight. But he hasn't yet apologized to the public. And I think that your censure rules or your ethics rules should somehow or other accommodate at least the council voting on some course of action to be directed against the individual who's been in violation of those ethic rules. If not, you'll have a continuation of what's been going on here for the last 3 or 4 years. And that's about all I got to say.
Right.
Deponeth further saith not.
Okay, thank you. Other public comment? Sure.
Gordon
Gordon Bockelman, 404 3rd Street. I would just like to express my appreciation for some of the extraordinary employees that we have of this town who go above and beyond and show the spirit. I was thinking of Susan Parker dressing up for the trunk or treat, not just coming, but really lending to the atmosphere of it. Chief Clammer did a fantastic job with the children. One photo in particular, a young man who was dressed up as a police cadet, and he took the time to pose with them and so on. Richard Childress is an amazingly good speaker. He came to Sunset Vision. He told an amazing story about Carmel Zetz. We have employees that who go above and beyond, you know, doing things that are not being paid for, just the spirit that they show. And, you know, I feel very proud to be in a town where employees are of this caliber. I haven't lived in a town before where we had employees of this caliber, and I just hope that with our new council and so on, we take the actions to maintain and encourage these type of employees, and they don't get enough recognition for what they do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other public comment? None appearing. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?